Welcome, everybody, to episode 49 of PT Shop Talk. In today's episode, we do a little bit of JOSP pain science and practice discussion on Central Sensitization. We finish up with our top 5 hardest hitters in NFL history. With me, as always, is Nick Boomstick Doling and Jeremy Gravedigger Van Klompenberg. Welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome.
This
You
is
got monster trucks now.
Yeah,
Gravedigger?
no, Gravedigger, isn't that when you like sack the quarterback and run like 30 yards to the 50 and dig their grave? Isn't that
I've
cool
seen that.
dance?
Yeah, who did that?
I
Who
don't
did
know.
that all the time?
We had a guy on our football team that did it in a game. Oddly enough, did
Really?
not get penalized for it. I was like,
Really?
"Ooh, that's going to be a penalty." Yeah.
Well,
He
even
wasn't
nowadays,
resting
they're
care.
not super consistent on how they handle penalties, anyhow.
No.
When it's taunting, and there are. I mean, I'm not even complaining all that much, but it's just not consistent. Like
Was
sometimes
it Gilbert Brown?
Gilbert Brown? Huh?
That's
I don't know.
a name I haven't heard in a long time.
That should be a top.
It's
we'll
what
keep that in mind.
Wikipedia says.
Oh yeah, the Gravedigger celebration.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you talk about taunting. I don't know. You guys aren't on Twitter maybe as much as me, but like one video that was trending this week was like a 12th grade basketball team, like AAU team, and how these kids were just so cocky on the court, taunting after like every play they make, doing dances.
Oh, really?
Yeah, flexing
Yeah.
on the court and stuff at 12, and I'm like, that's so ridiculous.
12U, yeah, not 12. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 12U. Like these
Gotcha.
are like little kids. Like this dude was this one kid just throwing double biceps on this other kid. He must have been about 50 pounds. I mean, it was crazy.
Classic Clomp. I can see him doing that.
Yeah. Well, so yesterday I went to my buddy's kid. He's in first grade and he had a basketball game. God, there's a kid on his team that, made a basket and did a gritty the whole way down the court. And I'm like, God, first grade, these kids are 6 and 7. And there was a couple kids that threw up the 3 sign after making a basket, literally 1 foot away from them at 8 feet high. I'm like,
Yes.
what are these parents and coaches? You gotta, I don't know. I guess that's maybe a little young to.
Yeah, man. I mean,
that
there's
cocky.
Do you think it's a generational thing? Do you think the eras have just changed that much?
Yeah, maybe I'm just like old and curmudgeon-y.
Get off my lawn. Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
But like football, it seems like they toned it down so much, the celebrating, and then basketball seems like it's gone the other way.
Did they though? I mean, did they
It's
to a
back now
point?
little
I
bit.
mean, gosh, I'm almost over this. I thought it was fun at first, but now anytime there's a turnover and the entire defense comes into the end zone and does something, it's like silliness, man.
Yeah,
It's a whole other level.
I don't like that part in the NFL, like the classic basketball, right, where they're bring out the sparklers.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Fireworks,
Yeah.
right.
Well, it's funny because they can call. So if you get a turnover, you get a beautiful like pick, not even pick 6, just a nice little pick. Like all of your teammates, they've even let some guys come off the sideline and do this stuff.
Yeah.
And they're all like in the end zone doing, especially when it's an elaborate choreographed thing, like the Vikes did. Was it Patrick Peterson or somebody did the bowling one?
Yeah.
I mean, they did all that stuff, but yet in some of those same games, they'll call taunting on like a running back who breaks a couple
stares at him?
tackles and turns around and like says something, and they're like, "Oh, wow."
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, or like Joey Bosa walking away as a ref's running after him, barking at him until he finally turns around and says something.
Yeah,
Gets a flag.
that was funny. We were talking about that a little off pod, like that. The fact he threw his helmet twice, and then it, again, everything becomes a meme now. But the head coach of all guys, like Brandon Staley, goes and like picks it up, hands it to him, and he slams it again.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, then they find him. Did you guys see that?
Yeah,
How
I
much?
didn't see. How much?
I think it's Jeremy. You're a great producer. I want to say, I think it's like 85K.
Really? I would have guessed 50
for that. You go ahead.
It's a lot of
produce
money.
that, but yeah, those brothers are bosses though. I wouldn't want to be on their wrong side, either one.
Can you imagine what holidays are like with those guys? Where it's like, hey, you want to play some ping pong, and they
I
just
think it's like
just gotta go at it. Yeah, right. Like those guys are 2 fine-tuned athletes just going at it all the time, right? I suppose it's like the walks too, right?
Yeah.
This is 55,
Was this
546.
Oh,
Where do they get that number? $55,546. Wouldn't you think they would
I don't
just
know.
keep it to like 50, 55? You know, like, wouldn't that be a little easier?
Oh, you think it's like a game check for him?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's something,
something
like
like
that.
that.
He's getting way
Maybe.
more than that.
You know, they shouldn't, but I wonder if they
week?
scale it
What's
up salary a
55K?
little.
What's 55K?
Times
a week?
16?
Times
That's
50,
less than a.
if you broke it into 52 weeks a year, what would it be?
Oh, well, they get just
You
get
went
paid
that
during
way.
the season, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, some get a
Jeez.
game. Yeah. What would that be? Just to try to figure out how they came up with this, because we're just like burning time on the pod.
Yeah, this is great. Pod
Let's
radio.
figure out how we're
2.8
let's figure
million.
out
2.9.
2.8. Well, he's making more than that a year.
Yeah.
You think so? It was like a day. They find him 1 day's pay during the season.
Yeah,
It's
you
horrible.
got to imagine it's got to be prorated off of his salary if it come up to some weird number
Something.
like that.
And then, do you guys know where it goes? Because my wife asked me that one time. Let's go to like I know
Players
the
Union.
NFL says it goes like a charity fund or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a valid question.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't care.
But-
They probably don't care. It's interesting to think like 80 or 55K. Like, I don't really care. Like,
It says charitable causes,
Yeah,
including
cool.
supporting retired players.
he's just a humanitarian.
Wow.
It's
So
nice.
then, if you're a
write
retired
that
player, you're
off?
kind of. I hope so. But then, if you're a retired player, you're kind of sitting back, like.
Yeah, I can't wait for that check in the
Oh,
mail.
hey, you keep throwing that helmet,
Yeah.
Joey.
You're just getting those front row seats just so you can dog at the players all game long so they get pissed off.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Go out there and do something. You're gonna let them do that till you get out there.
But
Throw
on
your
that note,
helmet. No,
we
throw
could-
it again.
We could do a
Keep
couple
throwing it.
different versions of the top five. Could be like top five like scariest guys right now
Hmm?
in the NFL. Top five scariest like all time.
Ooh,
You know, those are
Some
always
scary
fun.
ass dudes back in the day.
Yeah. And they like played for real. I mean, this is it's
For
very
keeps.
business now,
For keeps.
but they played for keeps, man. They were different breed back then. And,
Oh, yeah.
maybe it's for the best, right? Because it's still the game. But these dudes that were like, "This is my livelihood," and you know, it was like, especially pre-free agency era, where you'd probably be with a team like 10, 12 years, and those guys played a long time.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah, it's
of loyalty
interesting
there.
when you look at like heavy hitters like we're talking about today. As I'm going back and looking at these guys, a lot of these guys played a long time for like one or
Yeah,
two
one
teams,
team.
and it's like,
Yeah.
and the hits they were laying as I was watching them, I'm like, oh my god, it is kind of crazy they could do that for as long as they did. And I mean, I'm not saying they're living good lives now. A lot of these guys aren't, but
Yeah.
pretty crazy. Their longevity was longer than the guys playing today with all the
Yeah.
safety rules.
Yeah, it's different, but I think the guys nowadays are so much faster. They're
Yeah, I
bigger,
think
they're
that
stronger, they're faster. I mean, everything's so much. I mean, it's even more dangerous to a
Yeah.
degree, right? I mean, man, it's wild. But yeah, as far as the violence on some of these hits and the ability to go to head shots, that was very much wide open
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah, I think like the mid 90s to like early 2000s was a real tough time for like going over the middle. Like if you were a receiver,
Wait,
because
dude.
athletes were pretty fast at that point. Like they had similar bodies to today's modern athletes than the 70s and 80s guys, but there was no rules. I mean, if you were going over the middle, I'm launching my helmet
Mhm.
into your helmet. That's like,
Well, I'll be real, man. I got some inspiration from this from like the NFL Network one, like top 10 hardest hitters of all time, and I think that episode might already be over 10 years old. Pretty sure it is, but like those guys going back to the 70s, like Mel Blount and some of those dudes. I kind of skewed it away from that because I didn't watch them live. I think I couldn't really totally take a bunch of that in there. But man, those same thing, highlight reel. You watch that and you're like 0% of your hits would be legal now. Like you'd be flagged constantly. And dudes just like you said, they're going over the middle. God forbid they run a slant. And it's just like free reign, helmet to helmet. It's as long as you didn't get there before the ball did.
yeah, I got two guys on my list. There's no way they can play football now. How they played.
Yeah, I got two like that. And it makes you wonder, like, would they be successful in this era? I don't know.
I don't know. I suppose.
Yep.
You learn early on, you change your game. They were both freak athletes, so I'm sure they would have been fine. But
Yeah.
would they have been as cool? I don't know.
Man.
A quick
Jerry,
math problem for you guys, though. I had a birthday party this morning. I always like to check myself before I wreck myself. 15 kids, including parents, maybe 4-year-old. So 4-year-old birthday party. 15 kids. Let's call it 11 different families. How many pizzas do you guys order?
15 kids.
I
And
missed
how
the
old?
mark.
Say,
I missed
say
the
the
mark.
age range.
Age range
30.
probably, let's say 4 to 7, somewhere in there. It was for my daughter. She's 4. So some of her
So
friends and
there's-
some of their older brothers. My son's 6, so some of his friends
So
came.
there's probably 40 people there. I'd go 15 pizzas.
So you're going, so you have adult, no, are we talking just the kids or the adults are hanging out?
So there's,
Stick around.
well, here you have to order the pizzas before you know who's coming and going, right? So
Mhm.
15 kids.
Yeah.
How
So I was
many,
guessing-
how many adults do you think there's going to be?
You
I
said-
mean, that's at 4
You said
years
11 families.
old. Yeah.
So if you said 20 adults,
Because I'm
No,
going to
but we-
assume most people aren't going
I'd go 15 pizzas.
both
yeah.
parents.
I don't know. Man,
Minimum of 10.
we've had a lot of birthday parties for our kids.
Yep.
And we've never bought 15 pizzas. I think
That's
the
a
most
lot
we
of
bought was-
pizzas. I like that Jeremy thinks that all the children are eating like him.
Yeah, and
Oh,
most kids,
No.
Jeremy has your kids when they get older, you're gonna find out. Like kids at a birthday party, they'll have like 3 bites out of a slice and then
Mhm.
they're back to around. Like
Yeah. Well, and then they'll go grab another slice.
so I honestly think you're safe, even with parents there. I think you're safe with 8.
So I ordered 8
and he missed the mark.
and I had 3.5 pizzas left.
left.
Ah!
Yeah, and that's I'm just assuming every parent's gonna stick by what you said. Most I find a lot of parents don't stick around. It's like here.
You would
when
also-
when do you need to pick me up? Pick 'em
Yeah,
up.
I think we only had 2 parents leave their kids. Which again, like their kids are like 5. I'm like, that's kind of a young age to be like, hope it goes okay.
They must trust you. You guys seem very trusting.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing wrong
They
with that.
don't,
I look
they
like I
don't listen
care.
to the pod.
Yeah, right.
Well, so
100%.
5 pizzas would have been fine, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, would have been good with
Yeah.
5. Because here's the
That's
thing:
40 slices.
there was so many extra pizzas that I probably ate a pizza and a half myself just sitting around.
Oh, it's like
You're back
down in
to
Texas again.
eating 2 pizzas.
Well, it's gonna sit there. I don't want to take it home. And
And pizza, like
Why not?
delivery. Where'd you order from?
I actually got just Casey's gas station pizza because I was driving.
Let's
with my family.
go.
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah, ordered it on the app, picked it up 15 minutes before the party.
Yeah.
But we were at like a gymnasium, like a gymnastics type gym.
Ninja Warrior.
It's similar, but not quite as cool. More for younger kids.
Sky
So you
Zone
couldn't-
type of thing.
No, it's just like Fargo All Stars. It's just like tumbling mats, and they have
Oh.
big space for bouncy houses and stuff in there. But you like have to take your shoes off if you're going to be on that stuff. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to leave my shoes on and just hang. So I'm sitting by that pizza that whole time, 2 hours. You're gonna
It's
munch.
hard.
You're gonna munch. It's
Did you
real.
get to eat breakfast pizza?
No,
Too late in the day.
thought about it.
That
Those,
is the best breakfast.
Missed
pizza.
opportunity.
those extra 3 pizzas should have been breakfast pizzas. Those kids weren't gonna eat them
We-
anyways.
We've done what you're talking about with like Domino's and it does like I used to like Domino's and I'm not a fan anymore. I think as far as reheatability, it's very poor. Very like a total C- on the yeah. So if you get a bunch of
It's
leftovers,
better.
it ends up in the garbage.
It's better since they redid the crust.
I
Like,
only
Yeah.
like Domino's
It's better.
deep dish. That's the only Domino's I like.
See,
I am not a deep dish person. Not at all.
What?
Not at all.
Chicago, even
No.
Chicago when you
Oh, Chicago style I could do, but I
Yeah,
mean like
yeah.
like Detroit style pizza. Oh, nah, no
really?
thanks. Yeah,
I
Or
love
like
all
a
pizza.
lasagna.
too much
Yeah, I do
bread.
too.
Too much bread.
See, I would deal if I go Domino's case, I'm going thin crust, and that's the one I prefer the most.
Little
And
cracker
I
crust,
could
huh?
put. I feel like I could eat I can eat an entire thin crust pizza large. Like,
I could eat that before I even started getting a meat sweat.
that's an appetizer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like a little flatbread.
It's nice, and they cut into squares versus triangles.
Which
I'm a
is
big
also nice.
Are you guys square guys or triangle?
Hate it.
I
I'm
like
a triangle
squares.
guy. I'm a triangle guy.
What?
Yeah.
Uh,
I like a little
Squares.
crust in my hand. I hate that little middle piece that's, I don't know where you touch it. What do you do with
I
it?
don't know.
I don't like it.
That's like those are the gold pieces right there.
We're square folks here.
Yeah,
We
I get
like
it.
them.
Too many like pizza corner pizzas at pizza parties in school. Ruined square
Oh, I
pizzas
loved
for
it.
me.
Did you guys do you guys sell those for like fundraisers?
We actually made our own pizzas in high school, like in the home ec for like Super Bowl and stuff.
Oh,
And we'd sell those. But yeah, we'd have those for fundraisers. And like we had to make, when we're juniors, you do like the concession stand at all the games. So you're making
Yeah.
a million pizza corner pizzas.
we used to, our FFA group used to sell pizza corners as a big fundraiser every spring, and those were dominant. Jeremy, you ever put down some pizza corner or not? Not
Nope.
get down your way.
A
Nope.
nice Supreme with the sausages that were like a
Never
ping pong
had.
ball flattened down.
I was taco. Taco was good.
Taco was good.
Taco was legit. I miss
Chicken
that.
Alfredo was solid. I like their chicken
Yeah.
Alfredo too.
Yeah.
Like
And then
half
there-
a chicken on there.
So you're right. Are you talking Supreme was different from Deluxe was with the veggies? And then
Yeah, I think
Supreme
Supreme was
just
Supreme's
the-
got meat.
The three meats.
Yeah,
Canadian
that was
bacon,
good.
pepperoni, and sausage. You know.
that was good.
That's
That was always
Supreme.
the hit. I think that
They're
maybe that
making
was the deluxe. I'd have to look.
That's
back
got to
now.
be
No,
Deluxe has
Deluxe
got to
had the
have
veggies.
veggies on it
Deluxe had the
too.
veggies. And their
Has to.
veggies sucked. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
Pizza Corner. But they sold, right? Didn't they sell to somebody a while back?
Now
Yeah.
they're not going to be a sponsor.
Oh, we lost it.
Yeah.
Come on, Blue Chew. Where are you at?
I
No Pizza Corner.
No.
know. So when you reheat
Yeah.
a pizza, what do you go with? You microwave, oven, frying pan? I know
Microwave.
people like the frying pan.
Dudes, air
Frying
fry.
pan.
Air
Air
fry.
fry.
It's the miracle cure.
We don't have one.
Yeah, we don't
have
either.
one.
It's too many
I know what I'm
tools,
getting you
too much
guys
crap.
for. I know what I'm getting you guys for Easter.
That's nice. We just have to find it somewhere in our hometowns.
Yeah.
Yeah, giant basket.
Yeah,
Giant
'cause-
basket with a Ninja air fryer in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I don't mind the microwave actually, but I always have to put like a little cup of water in there. That's a game changer if you never do that.
Really?
When you reheat a piece of pizza, put a little 2 inches of water in a cup, throw it in there in the microwave. Your pizza's gonna be so much like softer.
I had a guy teach me that about like if you're gonna nuke hot dogs, like if you're prepping a bunch of hot dogs for kids, you drizzle a little water on the bottom of that plate, and that helps. But now I've never heard that with pizza.
Yeah, don't put the water on the pizza. Put it in a glass in the corner of the microwave.
I still don't think that'll work for Domino's. I don't know.
Try it. It
I think
is
it's insalvageable.
get your
I'll try
phone
the
out
air
right now.
fryer,
I need you to
which I
call
will.
Domino's. Tell them if they have any pizza from yesterday to bring it over right now, so I can see you reheat it. It's a
Alright,
game
I'm getting-
changer. Just
you wait
like
till you get that air fryer.
Central
and-
Sensitization was a game changer in pain science.
Okay.
I'm saying.
Okay. All right.
Heard that.
That,
I'm not-
that segue didn't hurt too bad.
Yeah, there you go. That's
Had
probably
me on pins and needles.
yeah.
God.
Ooh, man. Now we're getting it. Now
Jeremy,
we're
you're
getting it.
very-
Dorsal horns.
Homo.
Homo. What?
Genius.
Versus-
Homosynaptic.
Hetero.
Genius.
Heterogenous.
That's all I heard.
When we're talking nerves.
That is that was I would say a term from the article that I definitely never really used, like homosynaptic plasticity and heterosynaptic plasticity.
Yeah.
You know, to talk about
Kind of
They
makes
talk
sense.
about
I mean,
hyperalgesia and allodynia, but didn't necessarily distinguish the two as two different pathways, even though obviously they are. But oh no, yeah,
so
it was
take us away, man.
yeah, kind of cool article. Joe SPT has been doing like a pain science in practice thing. This was part 4 from January of 23. So volume 53, number 1.
Very fresh.
Yeah, pretty fresh. Pretty fresh.
Hot
off the
press.
oven. Don't need to
Yep.
microwave it. Excuse me. So yeah, I think it was a cool article talking about how do we get to this point where pain starts to change for people, or how do we become sensitive to the things, some of these weird stuff that we used to kind of, I would say, describe as psychosomatic pain 30 years ago. You saw that terminology quite a bit, and that really came down to pain doesn't operate that way. It's all in your head. You've made it up, or you're perceiving it incorrectly. So this is kind of a cool little advancement, I would say, in pain neuroscience. And I would say when I first got into pain science, central sensitization was like the big buzzword. That's like, man, central sensitization, like this is why we have patients in the clinic that don't get better.
Yeah.
It was a big buzzword too when I was learning dry needling back in 2012 too. It was like, yeah, central sensitization is one of these things we're really trying to start to target too, trying to break the pain cycle. Heard that back then. I think that's maybe changed a little bit. I'm so far out of that now, but
it was a pretty big, well, I'm thinking back to, and those, I think we went to those first couple Adrian lows together, if you rehash that, right? And that was, you're right, central sensitization was one of the key sticking like terminologies that I took away with me, and started implementing it in practice, at least the philosophy of it, being able to discuss with patients a little bit.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just that kind of way to explain the weird stuff a little bit. It's, it's part of the puzzle still. I think that's something we can talk about too, is it's, that was 12 years ago, 6 years ago, I guess, since the Adrian Lowe stuff, but boy, it's gotten so much beyond central sensitization now. But this is kind of kind of cool article. I think it does a good job of breaking it down, talking about that dorsal horn. You get a ton of input in there, and then as that input, typically you get to the dorsal horn. We always say you get to those second order neurons, those interneurons. It's the bouncer to the club. That was always the story we used. So, you throw on a shirt, right? You're getting a million signals from all those light touch receptors saying you're wearing a shirt. Gets to the dorsal horn, interneuron takes that information, and boom. Hey, you're wearing a shirt, no big deal, right? You don't have enough receptors anyways to send up to the brain, not a big deal. Brain gets a little bit of signal because you might have one or two receptors that talk to the interneuron, gets up to the brain, descending inhibition, you don't even feel a shirt after that, right? I mean, that's kind of the basic signal. For the alpha fibers, C fibers a little different. They tend to be more noxious, right? That's
slower adapting.
Yep. Slower fibers.
Much slower to adapt.
Louder noise, I guess, if you look at it that way. Like nociceptive input is usually those C fibers. But it's a similar thing. Hit the interneuron, sends up the chain, descending inhibition, right? You stub your toe, it's one of the worst pains you've ever had. As soon as you looked around and made sure nobody saw you, pain starts to go away pretty quick, right? You hobble a little bit and you're fine. So I guess in the article, then it starts to say, well, what happens when that input doesn't go away? I think that's a big key takeaway from practice is when you continually barrage that dorsal horn, we see a lot of changes. Because all these receptors, these second order neurons, I don't even know if the article really talks about it. A lot of it is like GABA and glutamate is kind of the neurotransmitter that we use to facilitate that synapse. Those all create an acidic environment with that dorsal horn. So when you get a buildup of that, then those second order neurons, A, can die off, or B, can change into how they operate. G protein channels and G protein synapses develop. Right. So you change things, and those synapses and channels stay open minutes, hours, where normal synaptic activity at the dorsal horn's milliseconds. So you can see that big change in how we perceive things, not only light touch and pain, all those things, not just one type of fiber. So,
but I think you're right, and I like how the end of the article really delves into it. And I think any article has a little more credibility when they at least acknowledge, hey, this is not the total answer, the total rationale for pain, and they talk about the complexity of pain. It's just one piece of it. And how, when you talk about the repeated stimuli and it doesn't really get a chance to shut down, it does make you wonder though, how many patients that develop quote unquote chronic pain and central sensitization have truly undergone a repeated pain stimuli, right?
Mm-hmm.
It got me thinking, and I'm like really trying to retrace some patients. I work with some really complicated ones, and I'm like, I don't necessarily associate that with repeated pain, at least in like we'll say acute and subacute time frame or window in which they were getting it repeatedly irritated, where it was just became overall hypersensitive or hyperalgesic,
Yeah, I think that's probably the big flaw in central sensitization, is like this huge driver of a chronic pain experience.
Mm-hmm.
And the article says, central sensitization is reversible, can be reversible, I guess, in the short term or not. I would say when I first learned about central sensitization, they always kind of said at that point it wasn't reversible. Like once you're sensitized, you have other systems, because our body's really good at redundancy. So you lose that second order neuron, but you still have all the descending inhibition you can use. You can reformat, reconceptualize where you deal with pain in your brain, but the dorsal horn part of it's over, like it's not coming back. But I would say now, with what we know about glial cells in the central nervous system, there's some ability to change that back now, which is good.
General neuroplasticity now, what we know about that adaptation, definitely different.
But I do think that's a very good point you make, because most patients don't have continuing nociceptive input. I mean, that's
like
not how the
application
body
painful
works,
stimuli, repeated injury to the same area. I think it's, and this is where we've talked about this before, where I think I appreciate the complexity to it, and I think there's such a whether you call it psychosocial component to it, where I would almost argue, it's just my own anecdotal experience, that the majority have more of like a maybe an unhealthy relationship with the memory of like, this is the one time I injured my back and now it's been screwed up since then. Where there's been a motor vehicle accident, 15, 30 years ago. Recently working with a nurse who pretty decent functioning, right? But has had pain claiming since like 1994 when she had to lift and reposition a patient, right? I mean, those are the things that are compelling to me, and actually, Jeremy, as I'm saying this right now, I remember you and I used to work with a patient who tied all of her back pain to a snowmobile accident, back like turn of the century, like 2000, 2001. And it's like, those are the ones that stick out in my mind. And it's just anecdotal. I have my own biases. Maybe I'm forgetting about one, two, maybe had some repeated injury to the same area in like some short amount of time, but they seem to, in my recollection, they seem majority be tied and associated with like one injury, but they've had a hard time overcoming that. And when those reoccurrences occur down the road, it's like, oh, this is all because I got a bad back because of this past injury,
Yeah, I think those folks with the repeated stuff would be like your work injury person that's just got to keep working, or your athlete that's trying to get through the season, right? You sprained your ankle and you continue to run on it for 16 weeks. Yeah, those guys might struggle with that central sensitization. But that being said, it's off season, they can recover, right? They are able to shut it down and eventually recover. But that might be why you see some of these high level athletes that have quote unquote minor injury that just seems to keep nagging. It's maybe not even that they've let it, not heal. It's just that their body now is full of these, G protein fibers or G protein channels. So every little thing they do on that ankle, hyperalgesic now. So even though it's healed much better than it was 2 weeks ago, it feels way worse, or it feels at the same level, even though you've got a lot more tissue healing. Same with the factory worker too.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of high level athletic trainers who always use the sports car analogy with athletes, right? Like they're a Ferrari, they're used to operating at this incredibly high level of efficiency and athleticism, trying to run that parallel. And once a little thing goes wrong, though, it's very challenging to overcome, right? They almost feel like they need to be back to 100%, like perfect. And then, I mean, maybe there's a correlation with a little what we were talking about, maybe off pod, but just the speed, acceleration, the forces that these guys are operating at nowadays. Maybe there is some truth to that. And the impact's just that much harder, right? But they're playing, like you're saying, the ankle sprain. So the ground reaction force vector is just that much stronger with a guy who's, let's say it's our edge rush. Let's say it's Nick Bosa, who's 285, probably runs a 4.5.
Running a 4.48. Yeah, yeah.
So that impact at that joint, I mean, it is creating a lot more impact than me when I jog. You know, that'd just be my
don't
hypothesis.
downplay yourself.
No, I will definitely
It's the
not.
gazelle.
Yeah.
But they do talk
Jeremy,
about
what-
that in the article too.
Yeah, over here.
But just one more thing, and then I'll let Jeremy talk to kind of about what he was thinking about the article. But when you talk about if that descending inhibition doesn't necessarily shut it down, it hits the brain, you know, typically initial pain experiencers are like the motor, sensory, brainstem function, you know, survive. And then as time goes on, we tend to move that pain process forward into more emotional, cognitive processing. So Nick, to your point, I do think that plays a huge role in it, is people start processing their pain, not from a motor standpoint, but from an emotional standpoint. And that the more you do it and the more times it happens over and over again, it becomes, Lorimer Mosley will call it like a neural tag. You know, as soon as you have this painful experience, now you've activated emotional and cognitive stuff more than just like survival stuff. So I think that is a huge part of that recurrent injury, not so much one injury that persists, but injure. Every time you have that area get hurt, now you're quicker and quicker to process it emotionally than you are physically. So that's interesting too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm with you, Nick. I like more often I see those patients. I would say that too, like that are dealing with chronic pain. That it's like I had this singular event that happened, and that's the trigger for everything. So I don't know. Yeah, that made me think too, because like, is it with those you know, is it just because those channels are open longer that's changing how that's happening, or does it have to be truly you know, when we're talking repeated stimuli, or does it have to be a true like subacute or acute like tissue damage event?
Yeah.
That'd be,
or is there a threshold for appreciating the injury, like subsequent injury, just that much higher?
yeah. So I don't know. That was an interesting thing for me. I don't know that I have the perfect answer for that. But
you need such a small impulse to create like synapse, you know, action potential. Now it's so tiny, you know.
You can't remove the trauma from the injury in some of these cases, right? Like the emotional trauma with it. When it's physically traumatic, they're going to have some emotional trauma with it too. And I've been through that too. Like anybody who's been through like a really significant injury, right? Traumatic injury, like it gets in your head too. I mean, and that's part of our job as therapists as well. We got to help people habituate back into some of those patterns that maybe brought them there, right? And some things that they're still fearful of. I think that's been a good evolution of care too, like the evolution of approach to like post-traumatic stress and the applicability beyond just, you know, gosh, you guys can remember, right? Like 15 years ago, it was almost entirely a term associated with veterans, you know? And then it was like, okay, people who've been victim of sexual abuse, okay, they can have PTSD. And now it's really broadened out. And you're like, well, if you've really undergone anything like a motor vehicle accident, right? Work with a lot of people who are very intimidated and getting behind the wheel again, especially if they were very aware of the accident coming, like they saw it coming, you know, and saw the vehicle hitting them. I think those are strong components that they contribute to this, definitely, you know, and it's so multifactorial.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that in the athletes forever too, but you just never put a label on it, right? Oh, they're hesitant to get back on the field or something, you know, after a nasty injury too. I mean, those poor athletes are suffering from that same stuff.
They,
too, you know?
They show that with ACLs, right? Like the neuroplasticity that takes place with movement patterns. It's not just tissue healing and regaining strength. There's that whole other piece to it too.
You can have a completely healed ACL and still be afraid to land on it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I think the cool thing is I'm like, I don't recall going through, like, we were still going through gate theory in school.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's probably the coolest thing. Like, yeah, at the end it says, hey, we don't know everything. This is just one piece of it. Right. But 10 years ago, like, we weren't even talking about this in school. So it's just cool to see the explosion of research that's going on. Again, I know I've said it a number of times. I'm like, that I just got to get out and do it. But we talked doing different workshops and things like that. And I'm like, I would love to do a series on pain.
Yeah.
Even for people that aren't experiencing it, because it is so powerful for so many people of, that one event that now I can't, even young people, right? Like, I hurt my back as a CNA and now I can never work again.
Mhm.
It's like, man, you're young, active, you healed up, but it's just that piece that stays with them and alters potentially the next 80 years of their life because they tweak their back transferring a patient. So
Yeah, I think for me, that's probably like some huge takeaways just from using central sensitization is like kind of the being able to explain the weird stuff to your patients a little bit, like when pain, they become hypersensitive to things or it starts to spread a little bit. Because that, the article doesn't really talk about it a whole lot, but those interneurons are also kind of responsible for input above and below as well. So when they're not working well, you start to get more input. So your pain can spread, even though the pain's, you didn't cause any more issues and any more injury. I mean, how many patients do we have with somatic referred
noisy
pain, right?
neighbors?
Yeah. So I think that's kind of a cool way to describe that to people is like, here's why you're sensitive. Here's why your back pain started right in the middle of your back. And now it's moving out to your outside of your hips. It's not that you're doing more damage to your back. It's just that your back's looking for information. You're still not feeling where you want to be feeling. So, it's opening these channels longer to get more information in. But that also means we're having a bigger response to things.
More input.
So you do feel it a little more. It does feel a little broader. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But, normal body system. So I think that's a nice applicable thing that you can use with your patients.
100%.
And then I think
100%.
the other cool thing too is, again, as groundbreaking as this felt like 6 years ago, now it's such a small piece of the puzzle. I mean, when we teach pain science to kids in college now, it's like, here's a little piece of it. But, when you start to look at the immune system and brain activity and all those things, like you can have this, and man, there's a lot of other systems in place that take care of this,
Yeah.
So
Which is
kind of
probably
cool to explain that a little bit to patients too.
probably a good and reasonable approach for students, because they're the old proverbial drinking from a fire hose, through school, trying to absorb all the, neurophysiology, neuroanatomy, and general anatomy. I mean, it's just a lot. And then you add the pain science piece to it.
Mm-hmm.
And very, very interesting.
Yeah, if you can know it good enough to give a little story, that's probably a good place to start. But yeah, it's crazy how much we've even moved beyond it now. I mean, it's wild.
It's good that it's going to continue to evolve too. I mean, we got to get better at it because it's existing. It's created a big problem in a lot of ways on the health system. So we got to address it. We got to approach it. And as we've talked about before, it'd just be really great to have a little bit more support on the preventative side in U.S. healthcare, just in general. And this would be a big start of it, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great point to make, because you'll always hear that, like, because we use the stat, 75% of back pain will be fine in a week, So then providers will say the same thing. Well, why am I going to send them to therapy if 75% of them are fine in a week? And it's like, well, that's such a perfect opportunity to take 1 or 2 sessions to educate the patient on what happened, show them some things to maintain health, do a nice movement assessment, make sure there isn't something like,
use our tips and tricks from last week.
Right. Yeah. Use our tips from last week and say, you're going to be fine. Like every time your back
and
hurts,
capture photo.
Yeah. And capture
photo.
Yeah. Separate pod, Jeremy. So yeah, so I think it's
Mhm.
when we know all this stuff, we know the central sensitization, we know how the brain changes over time, we know how the immune system responds to multiple injuries. Let's get in there and put these people in a position to succeed instead of going,
Yeah.
they're either going to get better or they're not, and we'll worry about them when they don't, and now they
Mhm.
cost $350 million a year or whatever it is. So
Yeah. I had an awesome email on Tuesday afternoon. The guy that I worked with maybe 3 or 4 years ago for some ridiculous symptoms going down his leg, coming from lumbar. And in his subjective, he was telling me, he thinks it's associated with shoveling, had a flare up like a couple weeks ago. And was kind of putting it off, on the fence on whether to come in, but he felt really locked up. And he booked this appointment with me, like, it ended up being like 8 days in advance. By the time our schedules could like line up, because he's still working, still staying busy and everything like that. And in his dialogue, in our dialogue together, he's telling me, yesterday, Monday, he was considering like just canceling the appointment outright because his pain had really diminished compared to where it was. But he's like, I decided to keep it because really I wasn't sure if you could show me some new things that I could do to kind of like when this comes on just to manage it. I'm like, dude, I love this. Like, this is awesome, and then we can get really creative with POC. It's like, we don't have to see you 2 to 3 times a week right now because you are pretty high functioning. You're able to maintain this. Your pain's fairly low. Yeah, let's cover some fun stuff, some more, preventative things, the tips and tricks we talked about, etc. Empowering patients. So it's great to have patients like that. Hopefully, we're going to see more and more of them who are, as proactive and preventative as we can possibly get. And I think as deductibles have continually risen, we should theoretically see more of that.
Yeah, I think that's that demonstrating value. And really it comes down to demonstrating value to your patients, your clients, whatever you want to call them. I mean, I think that's kind of where we got to go. I don't know if fighting the MD battle is ever going to change a whole lot. You hope it does, but boy, there's enough research out there where if that was going to change, you would think it would have by now, between insurance and MDs, like. But you see more patients all the time. I feel it anyways. More patients just come to us. So that's nice. Getting there. And I see a lot of parents now that bring their kids in for that same thing. Like, hey, had some little bit of back pain, can you show my kids a few things in the gym? Or we had one the other day where a kid came in a lifting program at school and it wasn't going well, multiple injuries over the course of a year. And it's like, can you see what we're doing and see, is there some things? And it turned out they were doing a 1 rep max every other week. That was the coach thought that was appropriate to check that out every other week, make sure that was changing.
I'll get to see those gains, bro.
Yeah, right.
They test it out.
You gotta test it out all the time
and
for
was
6
that really?
months.
I mean, no, it doesn't matter because we weren't there. But then I wonder too, how much of it's the coach, how much of it's that program, or how much of it's just like the culture, right? You get around the rest of your teammates and it's like they like to test out all the time. And all the years that I've done training athletes, they want the least sexy thing is like a 5x5 day of squats or 5x5s of deadlifts, God forbid. They just want, hey, load it up, let me do it one time, see the most I can do.
Yeah, bench press preferably if I had to choose one.
Yeah. Well, good talk on pain. Which could be contributed by a hard hit.
Definitely, especially hard hits over the course of an NFL career.
Boom. Moving on. That was fun. That was a good topic, guys. We'll have to keep hammering out good journals like that. Now on to our top 5 hardest hitters in NFL history. I feel like we need that. We need that dude from NFL Films, right? This is awesome. I love this topic. I've been wanting to kind of throw something like this out there. As we said, it kind of requires a little, you almost want to research it just to watch some of the highlights again. I'm excited about it. I can go first and I don't know, just take it from there. You guys okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine. It'll be interesting. There's a ton of hard hitters out there, so I'd be curious to see if we have a lot of overlap or not.
There are a lot of hard hitters. Definitely. I feel like this could have been a top 25. and I still would have had guys like left out.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
And then to try to objectively, order and number them, man, this is tough. But I'll go right away. My number 55555 is my only current and contemporary player here. I probably the only player in the last 15 years where I've had a true man crush on this guy. Like, just play every way he plays. I so wish to God the Vikings would have this guy. It's Aaron Donald, defensive tackle for the Rams. Total package.
Good choice.
I mean, speed, just enough size. And for him to create the velocity he does to make some of these smashing hits on like running backs and quarterbacks, like the rest of my list is going to be pretty D-back heavy, and they have an opportunity to light guys out that are fairly unprotected. And this guy, he's taking on, he's smashing other linemen and just making them look like freaking jokes. I think he's a once in a lifetime talent. If you guys know, I think the Minnesota Vikings drafted Anthony Barr one or two picks ahead of him in the 14 draft. Still stings. I mean, like a freaking 8-time All-Pro, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. But
we would have never paid him. he'd still be with the Rams.
Nah, that dude's just an overall beast. I try to show videos. He's got some really cool like training videos that you can find on YouTube, how to work on like hand work, footwork, and then weight training, stuff like that. Showing that to my son. Try to see if that lights a spark too, and just interesting things. So that's my number 5 on this list. Kicking it off, Aaron Donald, current defensive tackle for
amazing to be that size and like pretty decent physique. I mean, the guy, he doesn't look fat. You
don't see many D tackles like that.
No, unique, like you said, generational player for sure.
Yeah. Well, which one of you fellas wanna
I'll go number 2. I probably didn't watch. I didn't really get into football into the mid '90s, so that definitely skews my list a little bit to that era. But my number 5, it's actually my only modern day player on here, and I think I'll probably get a little bit of crap for it just because it's an offensive player. I think the dude lays the wood pretty hard. Probably makes my list solely for his stiff arm ability. And it's Derrick Henry. I've seen that dude launch defensive players with one arm about 3 feet.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. He's also, I would say, a generational player. Guy shouldn't be that size, that fast.
We should be producing this, but like he is what, 6'3",
6'10", 325.
Wait, 6'3", like 245?
6'3", 240.
Something like that.
And with speed. I mean, that's the
blows by D-back sometimes. It's crazy. He's a dude I would not want to hit. I thought of a few running backs, obviously like the Jerome Bettis back in the day, Mike Allstott, but Derrick Henry's, I think, got something on those guys.
Allstott was on my short list.
6'3", 247.
Jeez. With like a 4.6 40.
And he's not afraid to hit people. I mean, he is. But like I said, just you can watch a highlight video of his stiff arms all day. That has to be demoralizing when you go to tackle him and he just launches you.
Right before Tennessee, before the Titans really got hot a couple years ago, I remember he was like on the up, and they were playing Jacksonville because they're in the division, right? It's twice a year. And there was some game where he like stiff arm. There's like on the sideline, stiff arms a dude out of bounds. And then this linebacker for Jacksonville, instead of like trying to tackle him, is basically running alongside him 40 yards downfield, and then just gives him a little shove out of bounds. It's like
he wanted no
just intimidating, just like impressive. Jeremy, what were you gonna say?
Number 5.
Well, I was gonna say you mentioned Mike Allstott. He, like you think of him, how huge he used to look. Yeah. He's 6'1", like 6'1", 240.
Yeah,
as a full gunner is bigger than him.
Yeah. Well,
and a hair faster, I would say.
And some of these guys, man, like they're still. Well, you look at CJ Ham; he can't be too big either yet as a fullback.
He looks like he's like 5'10". Like
he's just like stocky and compact. Good blocker. Allstott, he had those huge pads too. I mean, he did.
Didn't he wear the collar?
He had a collar, right?
Yeah. He could. They gave him the ball every now and again. Yeah. All right, Jeremy, what
Cool.
is your number 5?
My number 5 is a Philadelphia Eagle, drafted in 1996. It's Brian Dawkins. Yeah. I should say this right away too. Casey, you said your list is skewed that way. I went that way too, like guys that I actually watched play. Because you get back into the old days, like you said, some of those guys in the 70s, like you wouldn't want to meet them in a dark alley, but
unless you were buying drugs from them.
It seemed like
Winstrolby.
Yeah. It seemed like he was always either laying the wood or picking the ball off, like obviously just a stud. And he was one of those guys too. I think he played 4 years for the Broncos at the end of his career, but otherwise he was 100% an Eagle. So actually I think that's everybody on my list too, is either they played for one or two teams throughout their whole career. So that's my number 5.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, he was. I have him on my short list too, and definitely more contemporary player. He was drafted in what year did you say? 96. 96. Yeah, and he would fly over. Well, my number 4 is also a safety. Now I'm getting into the D-backs. Way too short of a career, way too short of a life. It's Sean Taylor. My first of a couple Miami Hurricanes on this list, but man, this dude, if you watch, like I'm a huge Hurricanes fan, right? He used to be, you kind of get older, I think it's harder to stay with it. But he came in and filled in right after Ed Reed got drafted. And he was just as good in coverage and twice the hitter, and Reed was a hitter. But Sean Taylor he was never like the biggest guy, but man, could he generate force in small spaces. And I think the whole look too, he always rocked like the mirror visor, and that added to a little bit of it, just like Dawkins did. I think I think there's a little intimidation factor when you can't see the eyes. I think you'll always be known for like absolutely destroying that punter in the Pro Bowl. You guys remember that? That's a highlight to look up. I mean, he just never took an off time, never took game off or play off, and sadly, life cut short too. Gunshot wound to the femoral artery that took his life. When he was probably only 4 years into the league, 4 or 5. But that's my number 4, Sean Taylor, and he was Washington, now Commander, former Redskin, his whole career.
Short, but my number 4 is the only person on this list I was not in my era of sports watching, but see enough highlights, appreciate what he did to the game to put him on this list enough, and that's Lawrence Taylor. I mean, I could watch highlights of that guy all day, but that was like kind of like when you watch Jim Brown highlights too, where you're like, that's just not fair, because you're just so much faster and bigger than everybody. And they watched a few videos on Lawrence Taylor. I mean, he changed the game. I mean, they'd have to double team him on every play. And it's funny, his coach was talking like, he wasn't exactly a student of the game, he said. One game,
he was high.
He was supposed to go out on pass coverage.
Always on coke.
Supposed to go out on pass coverage.
The original PED.
Yep.
Coach came, yelled at him. He's like, I was supposed to be on pass coverage, wasn't I? He's like, yeah. They dialed up the same play later, sacked the quarterback, fumble for a touchdown. It's like he didn't care. He was, like I said, he was high. He played his own thing. Sadly, he's had a lot of personal stuff since then, but man, you can watch those highlights. That dude was unstoppable. Just a game changer.
He's one of those guys. You talk about that, like, I think there's a lot of guys that you look at now and you're like, man, if you would have put them in that game, what would they have done? If you put Randy Moss in the 70s and 80s, it's like, what would that guy have done to that NFL?
Wow.
But he's a guy that you look at when he plays and you're like, I think he would have been just fine in any era. He would have been just fine.
I mean, he could be an edge rusher now.
Yeah. Like I said, him and Jim Brown are two guys I think that you could have pulled out of their era and plugged in.
Think you're right on Jim. Jim Brown's a whole nother level of that.
Yeah.
Jim Brown was like he was
the
like
biggest
Derrick
guy on the
Henry.
field.
He was Derrick Henry playing back then.
Yeah, 100%.
Like he was all those career 12 game seasons he did that in.
Yeah. It wasn't fair when he was playing, and I wish there had been more highlights of that time from when he played, because the game wasn't as popular back then. But I mean, Lawrence Taylor, 6'3", 240. He was good size. Small, he was
guy.
fast.
Still pretty small by today. I mean, still lean, but so fast. So fast.
Cool.
All right, Jeremy.
My number 4. Again, I apologize, guys. I went a little bit more contemporary. But my number 4 is Cam Chancellor from the Legion of Boom. I don't know. I guess that'd be my take. Like, he was probably one of the most iconic dudes on that. I mean, there's a lot of good dudes on that defense, but that guy could lay the wood. I think his career, he should still be playing right now, I think, but it is what it is.
He did burn out fast, didn't he?
Yeah. I think I don't know. There had to be some behind the scenes stuff there.
Was he a career Seahawk, man? In doing your research? Yeah.
2010 to 2017. So,
man, he did that. That is a fast burnout. Huh? All right.
Which is crazy, because by NFL standards, that'd be double the average.
The average
10-year.
But that average, we know that's that's full of, like, your standard, like, you're not Brock Purdy 7th round picks,
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, and your undrafted free agents, stuff like that, guys who are just happy to be on the practice squad for a few years and do something else.
Correct.
Yeah, man, that shocks me. I love you brought up Cam, because he was legit.
He's good.
Yeah, he just kind of disappeared. He went from, like, all pro to Gonzo.
Yeah.
Well, was there an injury there? There must have been something.
There wasn't it? Like, he had a neck injury, I believe.
Okay. Well, okay. Maybe that explains it. Yeah. Yeah, he was number 31, wasn't he? That seems to ring a bell, was it? And he was a beast. Yeah. All right, moving on. Top threes. My number 3 is my second Miami Hurricane. Played his entire career for one team. It is Ray Lewis. And it's especially early Ray Lewis. I don't know if there was a scarier guy in the league than him, and I'm talking on field. I remember
very
in the
scary
2000s,
off field as well.
Yeah, I'm talking about. I was gonna leave that part out because, like, almost goes without saying, but
I'll kill you, literally.
If you guys can remember the run they went on in 2000, which I just saw this posted again. They had about 8 different teams, like, which was the best defense of all time. Another top 5, but number 1, I almost have to put the Baltimore Ravens for 2000 on there. He was the captain of it. This dude, when he came out, I think he was drafted in 97. I mean, he just smoked dudes. I mean, he was all over the field, played everywhere, middle linebacker. And he famously, I remember leading up, they had this huge rivalry going with the Titans that year. And the Titans they made the Super Bowl the year before. Eddie George, you guys remember Eddie George was a huge running back.
Yeah, he's big.
Not small. He's like, and those two were kind of going at it. And they met up, I think it was like the divisional round in that playoff. And they were doing all this hype video. And Ray was like, I ended his career already. and they were like, what? No, he's still playing. He's still playing at the side level. He's like, he talked about that game they had earlier that year and how Ray had just smoked him repeatedly. And he's like, if you watch him play, he's like, he ain't the same guy anymore. And then they end up, I'm almost 100% certain, if you look this up, like, in that same divisional game, Eddie's going out for like a screen pass, and Ray covers in, and Eddie catches it, and Ray just like yanks it out of his hands, and, like, I don't think he takes it in for 6, but I think he runs downfield for quite a bit, and just the Ravens go on and win the game, win the Super Bowl and everything like that. But it was like, I'm your dad, like, shut your mouth, I own you now. And then the rest of his career, he was just amazing. So that's my number 3, Ray Lewis.
It's a good number 3.
Yeah, it's a great number 3 because it's also my number 3, Ray Lewis.
All right.
Yeah, scary ass dude. Yeah, tackle king. I mean, that dude flew all over the field. I mean, yeah, I would say just not higher on my list. Just because he was a smart football player. I got to say that about him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did not put his body in bad positions. He wasn't, as far as I can remember when I watched him play, not a huge body launcher. I mean, he was just a solid tackler.
Yep.
You know, pretty good form, even his sacks and things. If you watch him, he wrapped dudes up, took them down. You know.
Yep.
So way better football player, I would say, than the next 2 guys on my list, because I don't think any of them could play football the way they play it now. But yeah, he was awesome. I mean, probably the best defensive player on my list.
Well, I can remember when he played for a long time. I mean, gosh,
96 to 12.
Years.
96 to 12.
Yeah. Went out on top. I mean, they won another Super Bowl. But that was back when they had so many matchups with the Colts, and they would highlight like Ray Lewis versus Peyton, and Peyton usually got the better of those matchups back then. How much they would both be changing things.
Yeah,
they said it was like a chess match. Yeah,
and then Ray would be like moving guys around. And it was awesome. I mean, that was so much fun to watch.
It's good football.
Those guys were that. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Ray Lewis is not my number 3.
But
we missed the trifecta.
This guy is also a very scary human being, I think.
Oh.
It's James Harrison.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
That's a I wouldn't want to see him in a game or anywhere. But went from 04 to 17. Kind of crazy, like, to have the career that he did. I mean, he went to Kent State, was undrafted. Pittsburgh signed him, sent him to NFL Europe. He got sent back. Like, basically,
we don't want him.
He was cut, I think, like freaking 10 different times by practice squad cut, you know, like just back and forth. But that dude is a freaking monster. And when you see the shape of his forehead, it makes you curious. It makes you curious if how he was that effective until age 42 or whatever it was.
Well, 41. He has some amazing strength. Like on his Instagram,
you see him leg pressing like 1,800 pounds, 2,000 pounds, whatever it is.
Doing like hip thrusts with like 500 pounds. Man, nuts.
But that dude is just a monster. And I swear he was the one that had he was one of the first dudes that came out that was like, I spend $1 million on my body every year. And he had like MD, PT, you know, acupuncturist, like he had all these like kind of this staff of people on retainer just to take care of him. But I mean, I guess when you play, like he made it past 40, didn't he?
Well, he's 44 now. I'm looking that up now.
So you would have been like 38.
30, he would have been 30.
Yeah.
Because he came out. Do you remember he came out and played for the Patriots for a little bit?
Yeah. Yep. Very end of his last season. Yeah. That's a scary dude.
Man,
doesn't that make you wonder?
Terrifying, bad.
He's technically he's an outside. It
widens out a little bit. Right? Yeah. And he's only 6 foot tall, I think. That was the big knock. The big knock was that he was going to be too small to play linebacker. So but
man, what a monster.
That's my number 3.
All right, awesome number 3. My number 2 has already been said, so I'm not sure what else to say. Casey nailed it. It's Lawrence Taylor, former New York Giant, former North Carolina Tar Heel. Dude played lightning fast, coked out of his mind, had an amazing, I should have said this, had a nose for the football and a nose for the lines.
Quite the nose.
Super famously known for the Joe Theismann hit too. I mean, which I don't even think is that vicious of a hit. It was just the randomness, the torque, that he put his body into, but LT, man. LT with those lightning bolt earrings, the dude was just lightning all over the field. Best player you could pick on Tech Mobile. I mean, he was
So it puts it on the list.
sans Bo Jackson. And if you took the Giants and you took 56, I mean, you could sack the quarterback every single play if you're on that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah,
Casey Neal.
well,
Number 2, Lawrence
hey, he's
Taylor.
awesome. My number 2, truly terrifying individual as well. Probably one of the dirtiest players in NFL history, I would
like
guess. And again, I started watching football in the mid 90s, and I didn't really have a team. So the Broncos were the guys at that point. So my number 2 is Bill Romanowski. Just a guy that crushed people.
He should have made mine, but I just never liked the dude.
Yeah, he's as a guy who was like a Broncos fan for about 3 years, I was a huge Bill Romanowski fan. And then, as I've seen interviews about him and stuff since, I'm like, whoa.
Just a bad human, right? Like we talk about good humans, but he was
he's
all about himself and
breaking fingers every chance he could get, every huddle, any scrum.
Who was the dude? And then he beat up some guy in like a practice. Didn't he break a guy's jaw at a practice? And
probably he was a bad man.
Then in a game, he spit in somebody's face.
Yeah, he hit hard though.
Yeah, he did.
Again,
he was a Niner, right? He was a Niner, and then
I believe his first path. 5 years were with the Niners. Then he was with the Eagles until I think 2003. Then he was with the Broncos.
So he was only with the Eagles 90s. For a year.
Yeah,
Broncos was 96 to 01.
Yeah,
and then ended with the Raiders. Yeah,
I remember him. They made the Super Bowl with him, right?
Yeah,
but they lost to Tampa.
Yeah,
he was also a big EAS guy. Like all those Denver Broncos were like on the Fossagen HP, him and Shannon Sharp, and running those ads.
That's all they were on.
Yeah, they were big into that. Jason Sehorn as well with the Giants. He was always in those
there was
too.
If you look into it, there's a little story that he showed up from the Bay Area with, I think the story is a tackle box full of vials and pills for the Broncos.
Yeah.
And Balco was out there, right? That was the home of Balco. So would have been way pre Barry Bonds, but
just saying.
You can see the time. I can see the correlation there.
Not saying, I'm just saying.
But he was definitely a
psychopathic human being.
Yeah, he was a launcher too. His style of football would not survive now. He led with his helmet every play he could. So
you wonder how his neck is now.
Terrible, I assume.
Resilient.
It was great at exposure.
No osteophytes at all.
No.
Awesome. So, I get it though. He's not.
The neck is a strong structure.
He's definitely a hard hitter. All right, Jeremy.
Number 2. This dude, he terrorized the Vikings for a number of years. It's John Lynch, 93 to 07. Man, I thought he was a Lynch pin of a lot of good Buccaneer defenses. But I feel like that dude was a launcher too, at least from my recollection. I didn't look up
big time
a lot of his highlights, but
he was.
It was just like wait for somebody to go over the middle and just you see 47 flying through the air and gonna smack somebody. But that's my number 2. John Lynch.
He was another super smart player though too. I mean,
he went to Stanford.
That Tampa defense. That's what you want. That's what you should emulate every team defense off of, where you got like all pro in the D, up front. You had Warren Sapp, and you had Derek Brooks in the linebacker spot, and then you had John Lynch, right? Yeah. You have all 3 levels covered with pro.
Do you say Rondé Barber?
Well, Rondé was on there.
He was good too.
I mean, God, they were great. I mean, they were
stacked.
Tony Dungy was a defensive coach, but I mean, they definitely, to have the best, arguably the best in your position for a few years at like, each of those levels. That's just so good.
Yeah.
What a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Awesome pick. Well, we're on to number 1s, and I think this guy's been my number 1 in this category since I can remember. Has not changed. He could not play in this era anymore. It is Ronnie Lott. Played almost his entire career for San Francisco, then finished with Oakland. The dude was a monster. He's still terrifying to hear stories about. Probably the only guy, got to be the only guy in NFL history who had his tip of his finger cut off at halftime just so he could play. I mean, the level of toughness.
I heard he bit it off.
They snipped it, but
okay.
That's another level.
Just an absolute beast. Kill anybody who came over the middle, and he's playing strong safety. I mean, and he actually started as a corner. I believe he was drafted as a corner, but found his home at safety, and maybe in my mind probably the prototypical greatest safety of all time. Like for what you want, you can cover guys, but you're smashing dudes, and you're going to come up and play the run too. Just no weaknesses anywhere. And but again, his highlight reel, I'm going to be honest, like at least covering receivers, you couldn't do that anymore. It's a bygone era. But doesn't stop.
He was just playing in the rules that he had.
Yeah. So totally legal at the time.
Yep. That's a good number one. He's a tough mamma jamma.
Oh man. Yep. Old number 42, baby. That man. All right, Casey.
Yeah, my number one. Already been said. It's John Lynch. Man, that dude could lay a hit. But yeah, total launcher.
Here we go.
But again, like you said, he was smart. He was always where he needed to be.
He rarely got beat.
Rarely got beat. He came up on good run support too. I mean, he could come through that line. Yeah, he was.
I love the old Bucks unis.
Those are so sweet.
He was smart. I wish this was more just killing people, but you got all these dumb, actual good football plays. Ooh, yeah, he was a helmet leader for sure.
15. Ooh, that's a good.
Oh, that was Marshall.
On Marshall Falk.
Yeah.
That was to the back. That's my
that one ain't legal. That one ain't legal.
I love it.
Oh, that's a nice pick.
You know what this is? Made me think of, Case?
Hmm.
You guys remember? And they stopped. Did they discontinue it because it wasn't cool anymore to do? But remember when Monday Night Countdown used to do Jacked Up?
Yeah, you got jacked up.
You got jacked up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I loved that. Me and my buddies in college, man, we would watch that.
Sorry,
Robert Smith.
Yeah, he was a hard hitter.
He's got a lot of decleaters.
Yeah.
Man, sweet.
But like I said, just smart guy. I was surprised there was much left in that old brain up there. But
he's brilliant, man. And now he's put together that 49ers now jacked up team.
Yeah, one of the best put together teams in the NFL, I would say.
Definitely. That's awesome pick.
That's my number one.
He played with the Pats?
His final season, I think he
was on the practice squad. I don't think he actually made the roster last year.
That last pick shocked me because I'm definitely he played pretty well for the Broncos.
Yeah.
Later on. But
I mean, he had an all right career, 93 to 2007. I mean, for hitting dudes like that, I mean, some of those had to be concussions. I mean, he was.
Yeah.
Oof,
he reminded me of like a guy who didn't make he's on my short list, but like same thing with Rodney Harrison. Like played all those years for the Chargers. And when the Chargers were bad, I mean, they were not good. And then he finally got some opportunity with the Pats, but then they could never win it when he was there. Like that dude was kind of dirty though. That was another thing. Harrison was considered like a dirty player. John Lynch was considered a dirty player by a lot of guys,
Well, again, you watch those hits. He was out there to headhunt people. I mean, but he put himself in good positions to lay those hits too. I mean, you saw all those plays. He knew they were coming,
Yeah. That says a lot. Timing.
Yeah. He was either a kill you hit or an interception based on all those highlights. So,
Yeah.
So,
man, I want to go YouTube some old jacked ups.
I think that got replaced with You Got Mossed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that seems more right. I still like Come On Man. Come On Man is just a fun.
That is fun.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Come on, man.
My number one was your guys' number threes. Again, I can't say much else. Ray Lewis. I don't know. Yeah, historically, were they by the numbers? Was that 2000 defense, was that the best defense ever?
Well, no, it's there. There's a lot of different stats to look at,
Yeah.
but they
if you go-
actually they had at the time, and I think it still is, the lowest scoring difference, or the lowest, they held teams to the lowest score in the history of the NFL. I think they averaged 12.6 points a game giving up.
Dang. I
they
just
went
think his intensity, man. Oh my good. Like
That was a good hit.
he covered a lot of, and you're 10 yards down the field, like dropping into cover.
and that's a legal shot.
Yeah.
That's just shoulder to chest.
Yeah, that was just a
dude's
forearm
beast.
shiver to the chest.
Look
Like I
at
said,
and the
was
way
a
he
good
talked
hitter.
to his team, Matt, the way he's like talking to those guys, how could you not elevate your game playing with that guy?
He's David Goggins, but like
Yeah.
6 times the size of David Goggins.
Look at
I
that.
mean, like, it's just,
And he was huge.
Dang.
I mean, he was a monster.
yeah.
And with speed,
He was a big wrestler in high school, wasn't he?
yeah, state champ down in Florida.
Yeah.
He
Nice.
talked about how he was driven. They had
That
a
might
really
be the one you were.
awesome-
No, that's not Eddie George. That
No, that was Lorenzo Neal. This is more contemporary. This would have been like mid 2000s. Ocho Cinco.
Ocho, get some.
That's a pretty good one,
Oh,
Jeremy.
I hope people are watching this on YouTube.
Oh my
Oh.
goodness!
That
There
is
goes that
great.
helmet.
Oh,
And
boy.
Ocho just got up. I mean, those were
Yeah.
awesome rivalries, man. The Ravens and the Steelers.
Oh,
too.
he gets
Oh, yeah.
at him too
John
without a
Adam.
helmet on. What are you gonna do? He's gonna shoot you.
Yeah, yeah, be
He's
careful.
it was a
Don't
nice.
beat him.
Oh
There's
my
Dockett.
Yeah, there's
goodness!
your boy.
Yeah.
Boom.
Woo.
That's a legal shot right in the
Yeah.
chest. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, these guys, the whole list, man. And we didn't really even get
Ooh.
into the old school.
Here we
guys.
go.
But
This is the 2000. Give me that.
rip
Look
it.
at that.
I'm your dad.
Boom.
I believe
That
this
was
is-
the game right there. Oh, he did take it.
Oh, he
6.
did house it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Number
good
52.
football.
I changed my number to 52 in college just to be like that dude. And I did not play. I did not play like him. But
Spoiler alert, I was
Yeah.
not Ray Lewis.
I went from
I like the
Yeah.
number though.
I went to 52 my sophomore year.
Dang.
Like, man, that dude was just a monster.
Yeah.
Just that you get. I love the younger shots. Like
I
you
know.
can tell kind of by
Kinda
their
forget.
old unis, but yeah, dude was just so good, so good. Do you want to? Can you quickly, before we're all done? Can you?
Yeah.
You want to? Let's see Ronnie Lott. I just want to see the last one of these I looked at. It was like nothing was legal anymore.
The only reason these guys didn't make it, I never saw him actually play.
Yeah.
Him or LT, but that's a bad dude too, right there.
look
Look
at
at that.
Million mile stare.
Yeah, man. There's a. Well, let's
Oh,
see
yeah.
it.
Is that Dick?
Oh yeah, he
See
flies
that?
right in there, doesn't he?
Look at that. And these are all running backs he's smoking. These aren't.
Ooh.
Oh,
Oh,
sit down.
oh yeah. It's got head.
I just love the absolute like change of direction hits where
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah,
like,
how do you
it's
have a
not-
actually
full
he's
head of
going down
steam
s-
and
These
go
are
the other
surprisingly
direction?
legal. Most of these have been legal.
Yeah, he's doing
Yeah.
pretty good. Sit down, little boy.
That one might not
That
have
one might
been.
not be.
That one's not.
That one's
not.
questionable.
Has not.
That's
Punched him in
probably
the face.
That's probably not.
That's a different game.
Probably not.
Oh,
Probably not.
I don't know. You know, we say obviously like
Nope.
nowadays
Sorry,
athletes
Barry.
are bigger, stronger, faster, but these guys are moving at a pretty good clip though. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, these are all slow-mo, but when they speed it up to normal speed, those are pretty high impacts even back
Sit
then.
down, Icky Woods. Dang. Oh gosh, this is so much fun.
they had to feel terrible the next day.
That's not legal. That's not legal. That's not legal.
Oh, body slam.
That one is.
Oh, a suplex. He
Yeah.
had multiple suplexes. Oh,
Oh
they don't like that anymore. Brett Favre
no.
or Aaron Rodgers would have shattered if you did him like that.
Oh,
Oh.
he just did that to Ahmad Rashad.
That's
Oh,
real
man.
TV, as they say.
Yeah, this is so
They
great.
do say that.
I love like the
Ooh.
NFL Network have these amazing documentaries. And I think you still get them on demand, but
Pop
they
up
would
a couple of LTs.
they would follow like the Super Bowl winning team from like every year. They kind of just review their season and then they get in the Super Bowl and they'd pick 3 guys from like that team, usually as like a coach and then 2 players. And the year that the Niners beat the Dolphins in the Super Bowl, Ronnie
isn't-
Lott's one of those
This
guys.
isn't LT
That one's
highlights, but this
awesome.
looks good.
This does look good.
Yeah, different ballgame, man.
Hits that would trigger people today. That might be Bill Romanowski up top.
Oh, ooh, his own guy.
Is that Atwater?
Atwater?
Steve Atwater, the smiling assassin.
I had him on my
Yeah.
list.
He was
Oh,
a
Jesus. Super Bowl.
yeah.
3 guys out on one hit there.
He was always a big. We wanted him on Madden
Mhm.
back in the day.
He famously like lit up Christian Okoye when Okoye was like, killing dudes and just running over.
He just lit up
everybody.
his own dude
Yeah.
right there.
Instantly
was out before
unconscious.
he-
Yeah,
I'm out before I hit the ground. Night night.
yeah.
Oh, that's eerie.
Dang. He was out. Atwater was the one. I mean, he fell face first there.
Yeah. Yeah, did it to himself there. It's crazy we used to watch TV like this and be like, this is crystal clear.
Uh-oh.
It's like I'm in the stadium.
Ah. Yes.
Yeah.
He needs help. He gets up and waves in like, yeah, get him help, because I just
hands
broke
on the
his
head.
leg.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That's so wild too that like 2 of the nastiest fib breaks were both Redskin QBs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah, you see Alex Smith's scar. Whew. Scars.
oh, here
I
we
don't
go.
need it.
Let's see this angle.
Oh,
Come
I
on,
don't.
leave it on.
Oh, God.
Let's go.
All right.
Get tough.
Oh, it went sideways. It went sideways, Nick. You really wanted to see that, huh? Woo.
You know he heard that thing just go.
Oh, you had to hear that on the sidelines,
Man.
right?
Well, they said it's they did a little like Joe Theismann did a walkthrough review of that and with LT. I can't remember. They said it sounded like wood cracking, like a branch snapping or something.
Yeah.
Like
See, that's funny that you. It's funny you say that.
Sammy White.
There was a guy. Yusuf
That's not
Nurkic
legal. Jesus.
broke his tibia, and it sounded like you were in basketball. Like no one even hit him. He just came down and busted his tibia, and it sounded like somebody was slapping 2 2x4s together. It was just gross.
There was a kid that broke his tibia in football practice when I was on high school. Exact same thing. It's like you took a piece of wood and splintered it apart with your hands.
Yeah.
That sound will stick with me forever. That and the horrendous screams afterwards that followed it.
Yeah. So who's this?
That's
this
when I started
Bears.
liking horror movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Who
I'd
is-
rather watch a horror movie anytime than watch that Theismann hit again.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Some different when it's real life, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
You
Yeah, I
should
was
look up Napoleon McCallum's knee injury. It's like a Monday night game. It was like Raiders and
You're
Raiders
sick.
and Niners.
Nobody wants to see that.
We did.
Yeah, but I saw
Is
an
that
interview with
Chuck Cecil.
Lawrence
Oh, yeah,
Taylor
baby.
where they asked him if he ever talked to Joe about it, and he said he visited him in the hospital. And he said that he told Joe that he was lucky because Lawrence Taylor typically doesn't do anything half-ass, alluding to the fact that he normally would have broke both his legs, but he was lucky that day.
Jeez.
Terrible man.
Look at-
Oh yeah, stop and
What are we
go.
gonna see?
Ooh.
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 Damn.
Gotta get pretty. Oh man, cowboy collar. Instantly add 70 pounds to you.
God, who this? Jeff Hostetler handing off to. Is that Dave
Starting
Leggett?
defense. Place at the table.
Yeah. Well, anyways, as we're watching
Yeah.
this concludes episode 49 of BT Shop Talk.
Hopefully you're
Thanks,
watching on
everybody.
YouTube.
Yeah,
Excuse
this
the
is
last
one to
12
watch on
minutes.
YouTube. Just some major hits on here. As always, Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on YouTube, PT Shop Talk at YouTube. Twitter, PT Shop Talk 1. PT Shop Talk at Gmail if you gotta hit us up with some emails. And until next time, I'm Casey Hansen. With me as always, Jeremy Van Klompenberg and Nick Doling. Thank you, everybody.
What's this?
I don't know.
What's this one? Dirtiest cheap shots in football.
Stop recording for a second when I have
Yeah.
yeah. I gotta, there we go.